See if I remembered everything, because it has been a minute since I've done this. Alright, just give a minute to see if anybody joins and see what happens, because it's been a while. Feels good to be back here though. Even though I don't like editing. I never like editing. But it's got to get done, right? In order to do all this stuff. Alright, let's find the starting point at least.
Sassy smell.
Oh, hang on.
1 year earlier.
There we go. Okay, that's where I need to be. I need to get rid of all this shit in the background. Silence that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right there. Boink. Alright. Oh. If I can spell. There we go. Alright.
1 year earlier.
Oh.
1 year earlier. Sassy smothered out the cherry of her cigarette, blowing the fumes of the toxic habit she'd been trying to kick into the atmosphere.
Okay. Let me hold on. Don't know why it does that. Alright, let's grab this. Control C, give this some room. Control V.
Sassy smothered out the cherry of her cigarette, blowing the fumes of the toxic habit she'd been trying to kick into the atmosphere. She was currently on lunch break for her job she had learned to dread, having been in the field of pretending to cure lost and mentally disturbed patients for 3 years. She had gobbled down her sandwich and chocolate milk, having skipped breakfast and her morning coffee before heading to work, and due to her mood having grown worse at the sight of her daily patients, she'd given into her craving for just one cigarette. She hated herself for giving in so easily, but she'd get over it, swearing to herself that this was the last one.
Okay.
A promise she knew would be hard to keep. Really? Get it over with.
Get it over with.
She hated herself for giving in so easily, but she'd get over it, swearing to herself that this was the last one. That this was the last one.
That's where I cut it. Swearing to herself.
To herself that this was the last one.
Whatever, it'll work. Not everyone is going to dread over that. I know my audience doesn't give a shit.
A promise she would be hard. What? She knew. A promise she knew would.
Okay.
Swearing to herself that this was the last one. A promise she would be hard. What? She knew. A promise she knew would be hard to keep as she reached into her pocket and pulled out a stick of her mint-flavored gum.
Pull that back.
A promise she knew would be hard to keep as she reached into her pocket and pulled out a stick of her mint-flavored gum, sticking it into her mouth and chewing it. It was her coping mechanism as much as a cloak for the odor of her nasty habit, even though she knew her fellow colleagues could still smell the cigarette's odor. She didn't really care. She didn't really have any friends here, and she'd been judged before, so glaring eyes and offended ponies at her habit were static to her.
Okay.
She turned back to the entrance of the Kenterlot Hill ward.
That's a hard fucking sentence to say. Hey, Thomas. Okay, I need to...
She turned back to the entrance.
Actually, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to save. I am going to save, because I need to do that before something potentially bad happens. Okay, let's rename this. WIP. Okay, that shouldn't be too bad. Oh. Feels good to be in the captain's seat again, not gonna lie, even though editing is never fun, but hey, it's different for once, instead of just drawing. But hey. fun. Not. Remarkably, I actually remembered how to do everything without any problems. I mean, it's been months. When was my last actual, when actually was the last time I streamed? That I would have to go here for. Because I only have a YouTube Studio download on this one. I was going to ask if you wanted a call this morning, Thomas, but then I remembered I have to do this. Okay, good thing that was not facing the other way. Because YouTube might have yelled at me. Is ya Ninja? I think that's your name? Yeah. Or also known as Drifting Star. Where am I going? Oh, here. When was my last stream? Videos. Oh, right there. When was this? The last time? Oh my god. December 23rd, right before Christmas. So, December, January, February, March, April. So, almost 4 months. Jesus fucking Christ. I feel so bad. But you guys get it. I had surgery. I had to rest because otherwise I could have hurt myself. So I had to put my priorities elsewhere. Other than that, the healing process went fine. It was 6 weeks of hell, pretty much, not being able to walk on one foot. So I had to literally limp around like a goddamn leprechaun. But luckily we had a walker where I could grip the sides and walk around, like just by hopping and pushing forward. I started on crutches and absolutely hated it, because I hate crutches. Absolutely. And hello, Primordial One, also known as Tsukishima. Okay. Feels good to be back in the captain's seat, though.
She turned back to the entrance of the Canterlot Hill ward and returned back to her torturous occupation that barely managed to keep a roof over her head. As she walked to the elevator to go to the 3rd floor, she eyed the many patients just standing in the corridor as if they were frozen in place. It was a disturbing sight. Now I have to go a little bit more dramatic here. It was a disturbing sight. Seeing she knew that these ponies were
I was rusty as hell. Not gonna lie. I was rusty as hell. Like, you'll hear multiple times in this recording that I go like, or something like that, because yeah, I have been out of the seat for quite a while, so yeah. I needed to get my footing back. I need to get back into action and get that feel again. Like, if that's the best way to put it. So yeah, it was rough, but luckily on the 2nd day when I did the rest, it wasn't that bad.
It was a disturbing sight. Seeing she knew that these ponies were perfectly sane prior to being purposely fed concoctions that drove them to insanity. This place was a literal torture chamber for innocent ponies who had been led here out of false accusations. No. This place was a literal torture
Okay, pull that back.
This place was a literal torture chamber for innocent ponies who had been led here out of false accusations. And she
See?
And had been doomed to a very slow and painful descent into
I know, Thomas, but what else am I supposed to do? I know, take a drink of water.
This place was a literal torture chamber for innocent ponies who
Hey,
had been led
Anton.
here out of false accusations, and had been doomed into a very slow and painful descent into pure and unadulterated insanity.
Okay. So what I need to do here is I need to get rid of those breaths, if I can. It's been a minute, so I might fuck this up. Just need to make sure it doesn't sound like it's clipping.
Had been led here out of false accusations, and had been doomed into a very slow and And
Okay, I need to pull that back a little bit more. Hey, not too shabby, not too shabby. It has just been a flippin' minute.
ponies who had been led here out of false accusations, and had been doomed into a very slow and painful descent into pure and unadulterated insanity.
Perfect. Yep, all the recording for RTBAA is done. So, this is the process of just fixing everything up, so that sounds good. But if you're wondering where the hell I was for so long, I had surgery and I needed time to recover. So it was just a matter of once I was healed, getting back into the captaincy and getting recording done. But you see, what ended up happening was, well, I also developed the ability to draw, right? And now that's kind of partially another career in a way. And, well, One Piece opened the floodgates, and request after request after request after request after request kept coming in. So I had to list them, and I had to finish those first before I could get to this. Because the way my brain works is that you have to do this one thing first, then you have to do this other thing first. And that's how my brain works. Like, I can't do one thing mixed with another thing, otherwise my brain goes nuts. You watch anything while you were in recovery? I mostly played games and drew, because that's the things that were really the only thing I could do. I was bedridden, pretty much. Well, not bedridden, but bound to a bed, pretty much. Oops.
Fed concoctions that drove them to insanity. This place was a literal torture chamber for innocent ponies who had been led here out of false accusations, and had been doomed into a very slow and painful descent into pure and unadulterated insanity. Sassy knew this because she wasn't an idiot. In her itchy. Sassy knew this because she wasn't an idiot. In her 3 years there, she had seen ponies change from their admission to eventually comatose state in less than a year. What the? She had seen ponies change.
She had seen ponies change.
In her 3 years there, she had seen ponies change from their admission to eventually comatose.
Why did I say that so, like, I'm not sure. Admission? I think this line kind of toyed with me a little bit.
Wasn't an idiot. In her 3 years there, she had seen ponies change from their admission to eventually comatose state in less than a year.
Okay, so I know what's happening here. Yeah, this one screwed with my brain a little bit. Okay,
On day one, they'd.
Oh, I thought I did 2 retakes.
In her 3 years there, she had seen ponies change from their admission to eventually comatose state in less than a year.
Are you serious?
On day one,
Oh
they'd
boy.
be talking and be able to answer
Okay, hang on. It decided to be a butt. So I gotta force close. I hate when it does this. Otherwise, we'd be sitting here for the entire duration of the entire folder. Or the entire file. So, yeah, I'm not dealing with this shit all day. No. I don't know why it does this, but it's an ass. And task. Thank you. Piece of shit. Alright. Alright, I am just gonna keep that open, just in case it decides to do this bullshit again. Luckily I saved. Otherwise that would suck. Where's the Audacity freaking logo? There it is. Things you need to be very, very prepared for. And I've been doing this long enough to know how fucking buggy things can be. Luckily, we weren't that far into it, so yay. Not too bad. But I gotta wait for it to do its thing. So just give me a minute and I'll move the thing out of the way, but I have to wait for it to do its thing first. Can I move you? Yes, I can. Okay, good. This ain't my first rodeo. This is not my first rodeo. Okay, it's just taking its time. It's a bigger folder, that's why it's taking forever. It's like 40 minutes worth of audio. There it goes. Okay, shut up, I know. Alright. Let's see where the bug decided to put us. Which is usually pretty good at autosaving at a point where we were, but yeah, I don't trust it.
She had seen ponies change from their...
Okay, what was I doing before it decided to be a butt?
In her 3 years there, she had seen...
That's what I was doing. Get that out. It's only the big breaths that I need to worry about.
Because she wasn't an idiot. In her 3 years there, she had seen ponies change from their animation to eventually comatose state in less than a year.
Okay, what is that?
Yeah, it'll work.
Yeah, it's kind of choppy, but whatever. It's believable enough.
State in less than a year. On day 1, they'd be talking and be able to answer even the simplest of questions that any pony should know. Then, after 1 week, they wouldn't be able to answer those questions anymore. It only got worse from there forward. They'd lose the... They'd start to lose weight. I lost my place. They'd start to lose weight. They'd start to lose weight. They'd start to lose weight. No. They'd start to lose weight and grow horribly ill with the same symptoms as every admitted patient.
I don't know why it's so quiet.
They'd start to lose weight and grow horribly ill with the same symptoms as every admitted patient. It started with loss of appetite.
Hold on.
And grow horribly ill with the same symptoms as every admitted patient.
Yeah, there's not really much I can do about that. Okay, pull that back. I don't know why it's so quiet. It feels like really, really quiet to me. But then again, I just haven't been in this seat for a while.
Admitted patient.
So maybe it's normal.
It started with loss of appetite, then being able...
As you can see, rusty as hell. Just trying to get my position back and trying to learn, like, not trying to learn, but trying to just get back into the rhythm of things.
It started with loss of appetite, not being able to keep down any food or liquids. Then it would escalate to
Pull that.
Then it would escalate to weight loss and excessive vomiting. She tried to convince the director of the...
God, I don't remember myself struggling this bad.
Then it would escalate to weight loss and excessive... She'd tried to convince the director of the facility several times that the patients needed to be transferred to a more advanced hospital, but he'd always argue that they were a hospital that could handle it.
Aha! Okay, I see why it was so quiet, because my volume for my headphones was down so low.
She'd tried to convince the director of the facility several times that the patients needed to be transferred to a more advanced hospital, but he'd always argue that they were a hospital that could handle it.
Oh, by the way, Thomas, where did you learn that whole, you don't clear the throat thing? I know you learned it from, like, a voice actor. Was it Peter New? I want to say yes, but either that or it was Tabitha, or maybe even Ellie Ray. I'm not sure. Me and Mark were talking about this last night. That's why I'm bringing it up. I remember telling Mark, you know, that I was struggling and that I was clearing the throat, which I shouldn't have done. and I couldn't remember who it was. And I'm like, Thomas would know right off the bat who the hell it was, but I can't remember. Nicole Oliver, okay, it's Celestia. MLP voice actress, I was on the right track. I just couldn't remember. Because we got talking about, like nostalgia. Like we were talking about Buck and how Peter New just showed up out of nowhere. So that's where it came from.
Loss and excessive vomiting. She'd tried to convince the director of the facility several times that the patients needed to be transferred to a more advanced hospital, but he'd always argue that they were a hospital that could handle it.
Okay.
So, the horror would continue up until...
Yeah, that's a much better volume level. I don't know how they got turned down so low.
That they were a hospital that could handle it. So, the horror would continue up until they would either become so ill that they'd pass away, or even worse, reach a point where they became brain dead and lost in a state of limbo.
Okay, now I just need to give her that breath. Oh, I see. I had a burp.
Okay, nice. Hold on. This is one part of recording that I absolutely hate, is when you burp. Ugh.
Okay, it looks like it's just up to here.
So, the horror would continue, up until they would either become so ill that they'd pass away, or even worse, reach a point where they became brain dead and lost in a state of limbo.
Okay, I'm glad I retook that because it actually, the final take actually sucked. This garbage.
So, the horror would continue, up until they would either become so ill, reach a point where they became brain dead and lost in a state of limbo. They could move and were alive, but they were...
God, I do not remember screwing up this much, but maybe that's just because it's the start.
But they were trapped in a vessel that couldn't fight back or say anything. Sassy prayed for them to pass away to escape their lifeless existence.
Pull it back.
Sassy prayed for them to pass away to escape their lifeless existence, but the majority still remain, wandering the halls and trapped
Some things never change, don't they?
Wandering the halls and trapped in a lifeless shell. She wanted so badly to put this institution in a grave so deep that it couldn't escape. But the issue was that she couldn't prove anything. Yes, she has seen ponies die and become...
Ishard Songbird, that's a new name. Unless it's a different name, like just a different alias.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm back after so long, and trust me, I hated being gone, but I had to take time to recover and get better. Because I had surgery on my foot. Well, not my foot, but my toe. Technically the same thing. But I had surgery on my toe to get rid of a bunion, and basically had to have my big toe fused on my left foot because the joint was gone from the gout. The gout completely destroyed everything. The doctor literally told me that when he went in there was like these shards of like fiberglass shards, but it's the shards of the acid that causes gout. And it was so like damaged that there was no way of fixing it whatsoever. So I was down for 6 weeks, couldn't walk or like move around normally. So yeah, it sucked. Like, it's probably the absolute worst recovery you can imagine because you don't realize how much you use your feet to walk around until you don't have a left foot for 6 weeks. But Let's to say, I'm better now. I can walk normally. My toe is just kind of floating now because I can't bend it. Like, I can bend the top joint, but I can't bend the bottom joint, the one that's closest to where it goes to the top of the toe. I can't bend that joint. That's the joint that got fused. But it is what it is. I can still walk normally. I don't have a limp. Amazingly, I don't have a limp. But it is what it is, and I'd rather be healthy than not healthy at all.
Yes, she has seen ponies die and become zombies.
Less to say, I missed you guys a lot. I missed making content. I missed YouTube work so much. It was bugging me the entire time that I couldn't do work. But you got to put your priorities where they matter, and the priorities were elsewhere. Less to say, though, I did develop art skills and had to get those out of the way because my art career went whoop up overnight because of a certain request that happened. And I think what happened is the person shared the commission somewhere because they have a shit ton of followers on DeviantArt. So they sent it probably like to a Discord group or something, and the floodgates just went whoosh. They just like opened, and I kept getting barraged. So I had to get those out of the way first. Luckily, we are to a point now where they've slowed, and I can get like shit done. So thank God. It feels good to be back in the captaincy. Hello, Rainbow Chance, by the way.
Yes, she has seen ponies die and become zombies, but she had no proof that the medication being fed to these ponies was the actual cause. Not to mention that the system was twisted and corrupt due to Princess Flair's rule. Not to mention that the system was
Yeah, I'm glad I retook that. Not to
twisted.
mention. Right there. Alright. Come on. Alright, save before something bad happens, because something already bad happened. I'm glad you're feeling better. Focus on yourself first. Yes, I am doing much better. Much better. I can finally walk around normally, thank God. And hopefully we can get back to doing some YouTube work more often.
Not to mention that the system was twisted and corrupt due to Princess Flair's rule. Sassy had been Sassy had been young when the
I remember screwing up a lot here.
Sassy had been young when the Apple Family Massacre had finally reached its end. But despite every bit of the twisted matriarch's attempts fucking Jesus. But despite every bit of that twisted matriarch's attempts to remove any existence of that decade of murder and genocide, she knew it was real just from one encounter. Sassy's mother had been a nurse of the Canterlot Hospital during the period stitching the wounds that the... Sassy's mother had been a nurse of...
Got calls, sisters, don't worry about it. It'll probably still be going depending on how long you're gone. This is a longer chapter, so it'll probably take me a minute to get going through this chapter, but we'll see. We shall definitely see. Oh, for the love of...
But despite every...
I really hate when I do that.
But despite every bit of that twisted matriarch's attempts to remove any existence of that decade of murder and genocide, she knew it was real just from one encounter.
There we go.
Sassy's mother had been a nurse of the Canterlot Hospital during the period stitching the wounds that the...
Okay, we're here. Okay, pull that back. Come on, you can do it. Don't even fucking start. Oh boy, we're to the point where the computer gets becomes a little bit of a beach. Do you have a glass of water near you? Well, I had this one, and I had this one. I always have a glass of water, or like bottle of water, whenever I'm recording. Always.
Sassy's mother.
It's just that I was rusty, Thomas. I had to get back into the captain's seat and pick up how to do it again.
Sassy's mother had been a nurse of the Canterlot Hospital during the period of stitching the wounds that the apples had left on the entirety of pony kind, before Princess Flare had even been instated as the new ruler. No pony of Canterlot had ever known of the massacre until the horrid truth was given by Crimson Flash. The princess's deaths had been covered up as... The princess's deaths had been covered...
What the hell is that?
The princess's deaths had been covered up as they had been summoned. No... What the fuck was that? Oh, we got a stutter. Hold on. Come on, you son of a bitch. Audacity! Oh, for the love of. This is what I was afraid of.
Yeah, casual everyday things that happen on Audacity, because why not? Alright, there we go. I think this is correct.
The princess's deaths had...
The princess's deaths.
Of the massacre until the horrid truth was given by Crimson Flash. The princess's deaths had been covered up as if they'd been summoned to attend a mission, as if they had been summoned to,
Jesus Christ.
as if,
Oh boy, this is gonna be hard.
as if they'd,
This might actually be impossible.
as if they,
That might actually be possible. As if. Let's see if this might work.
deaths had been covered up as if they had been summoned to attend a mission with the once known Main Six. The mission had been a trap. No. The mission had been a trap, and somehow the princesses had been detained and eventually killed by the Apple family. It was never thought that they were missing, seeing the princesses trusted the Main Six.
Yeah, there goes my computer in the background. Seeing. Is this where we were? Yes.
Seeing the princesses trusted the Main Six, so suspicion of foul play was never even a factor. Most assumed the mission...
My voice kind of died at the end of that sentence, but whatever.
Most assumed the mission as just being a longer than anticipated case, and considering the letter...
I remember this line. This gave me shit. You heard that was the try-read that gave me shit.
And considering the letters were sent with Celestia's hoofwriting to assure the mission being as said case, no pony went looking. Then came the day that... Then came the day that Crimson Flash would escape and... No.
I'm not really happy with how that one line came out, but... I was rusty, okay? Give me a break. Let me listen back to that one more time. Where's it?
Anticipated case, and considering the letters were sent with Celestia's hoofwriting to assure the mission being as said case.
Celestia, where's that?
Sent with Celestia.
Let me see if I can't clean that up just a little bit better.
Sent with Celestia's hoofwriting to assure the mission being as said case. Being a longer than anticipated case, And considering the letters were sent with Celestia's hoofwriting to
Better.
assure the mission being
Better.
as said case, no pony went looking.
Much better.
Then came the day that Crimson Flash would escape and spill the truth to ponies of us. Then came the day that Crimson Flash would escape and spill the truth to ponies of a small town.
My voice acting and, like, you know, ability to make the scenes seem real didn't disappear. I mean, that's just always been me.
Then came the day that Crimson Flash would escape and spill the truth to ponies of a small town. No pony had believed him up until the Apple family members were found dead. Up until the Apple family...
No pony believed him.
No pony had believed him up until the Apple family members were found dead.
Up until the members. The hell happened there?
No pony had believed him up until the Apple family members were... Up until... up until the Apple family members were found dead, and the most disturbing of... Up until the Apple family members were found dead, and the most disturbing event in equestrian history became known to every pony of Equestria. It had been a year after the massive cleanup of the massacre when Sassy... Fuck.
What the heck?
Okay, you son of a beanbag. I hate you. Why are you being like this? Are you serious right now? It had been a year... It had been a year.
It had been a year. Seriously. Just behave. Is this it?
It had been a year after the massacre
I need to double check, make sure.
became known to every pony of Equestria.
Perfect.
It had been a year after the massive cleanup of the massacre when Sassy had seen Crimson for the first and only time during a visit to the hospital. She had planned to have lunch. She had planned to have lunch with her mom that day and had met up with her while she was finishing up with Crimson. She had planned to have lunch with her mom that day and had met up with her while she was finishing up with Crimson. Why can't I move? Sassy's... Why am I having such a hard time talking today? She had planned to...
Whoopsie-doodle.
Sassy's mother had been his nurse at the time, and to say the least, when Sassy saw Crimson that day, it was a sight she'd never forget.
Hold on.
He had been sitting on...
Hold on.
Met up with her while she was finishing up with Crimson. Sassy's mother had been his nurse at the time, and to say the least, when Sassy saw Crimson that day, it was a sight she'd never forget. He had been sitting on the edge of his bed with his prosthetic hooves in his lap, and he had been covered in bandages that were stained with blood.
Okay.
His face had been adorned with an oxygen mask.
Hold that back.
His face had been adorned with an oxygen mask. His face had been adorned with an oxygen... His face had been adorned... His face had been adorned with an oxygen mask. His mane had been shaven for surgeries, and on the skin that she could see were an array of bruises.
Stop. Hold that back.
And on the skin that she could...
Nope, I hear that. Get rid of that. Otherwise that is going to get caught by the noise gate. See, I'm not too out of it. It's just a minute. It's just been a minute.
Shaven for surgeries, and on the skin that she could see were an array of bruises, deep lacerations, and the thing that burned that encounter into her mind. A brand on his flank that spelled AF out.
It's kind of a callback to the original.
The sight had perplexed and somewhat saddened her, and had caused her to cry.
Back.
The sight had perplexed and somewhat saddened her, and had caused her to cry. She had known nothing of her mother's patience, but the sight of Crimson was enough to tell the story of what had happened to him. Aside from the brands on his flanks, the other thing she had remembered the most was his eyes. The other thing she had remembered the most was his eyes.
His eyes.
The other thing she had remembered the most was his eyes. They had been half shut, bloodshot. The other thing she had remembered the most was his eyes. They had been half shut, bloodshot, swollen, and the sclera was a sick hue of yellow rather than white. He was lifeless, lost, broken beyond repair. It was the sight that led her here, hoping to heal ponies like Crimson, but
Hold that back.
it was the sight that led her here, hoping to heal ponies like Crimson, but once the decree of the abolishment of anything to do with the massacre was given by Princess Flare,
Shut that up. Ah, crud. Oh, shit. Wake up, body.
ponies like Crimson, but once the decree of the abolishment of anything to do with the massacre ponies like Crimson, but once the decree of the
Nope. Needs to go the ops. It needs to come back some more. Sorry, I see your message. I'm just focused right now.
hoping to heal ponies like Crimson, but once the decree of the abolishment of anything to do with the massacre was given by Princess Flare, the relief from the massacre had seemed to disappear, and ponies had started to disappear again.
Okay. I have to go to my sister's birthday party, but it's great to see you doing well, and I can't wait to see what comes out next. You're one of the best narrators. Thank you. I really appreciate that, and I hope you have a great time at your sister's birthday.
Had started to disappear again. Sassy had been too young to realize what was happening, but upon her mother quitting her job, she had known something was amiss.
Okay. Pull this back just a little bit.
Here again. Here again. Here again. Here again.
Can I get that out? I think so.
Again.
See if I can't get some of that yuck out.
Appear again.
That's better.
Sassy had been too young to realize what was happening, but upon her mother quitting her job, she had known something was amiss. It wouldn't be until she got older that she learned that the abolishment decree had involved ponies as well, meaning the ponies who weren't smart enough to get out or cheat the system to avoid death were executed. Meaning the ponies who weren't smart enough to get out or cheat the system to avoid death were executed. That's why her mother had quit and gotten them away from Ponyville and Canterlot for a short while, up until things finally calmed down. Up until
things have finally calmed down.
Up until things finally calmed down. Regardless of the risks, Sassy had even more of a reason to
Back.
Sassy had even more of a reason to become a nurse now. But little did she know that stopping ponies was being killed from far from east. No. Little did she know that Sassy had little
Was it there? I believe it was there.
Little did she know that stopping ponies from being killed was far from easy.
Much better.
She couldn't just not give the patients their medication.
Okay, just.
She couldn't just not give the patients their medication. She couldn't just not give the patients their medication. In her first years, she was required to have a secondary assistant for safety concerns with unstable patients. So, she couldn't stop the corruption until she was So she couldn't stop the corruption until she was trusted enough to be able to handle patients alone.
Hold that back.
So she couldn't stop the corruption until she was trusted enough to be able to handle patients alone. So she had no choice but to watch ponies be fed poison and see them slowly So she had no choice but to watch ponies be fed poison and see them slowly transform into a zombie. Now, it was her third year as a nurse, and she's managed to slip the medication from patients' mouths without any suspicion. But she still had no plan as to how she was going to hang this, and she's...
Excuse me.
Now, it was her third year as a nurse, and she's managed to slip the medication from patients' mouths without any suspicion. But she still had no plan as to how she was going to hang this place and Princess Flare. So, she just continued to step carefully.
Whoa.
So, she just continued to step carefully, waiting for her opportunity. Waiting for her...
Alright. What I need to do is get that plosive out.
So, she just continued to step...
Right there. I need to get that plosive out. Okay, it has been a minute since I've done this. It's not that hard, though. Alright, let's see if that did the trick.
So, she just continued to step carefully, waiting for her opportunity to strike. The ding of the elevator knocked her out of her thoughts. Having arrived at the third floor and the doors opening to a long hall, having arrived at the third floor and the doors opening to a long hall, and at the third floor and the doors opening to a long hall and the main desk, she ran just off to her left. She found her way to her workstation, taking a seat and grabbing some files off to the side of her keyboard. On the front of the folder was a number and a sticky pad with the numbers "Approach with caution." On the front of the folder was just a number and sticky pad with the words "Approach with caution" on it, to which she ignored and just opened the file.
She don't care. She's like, I don't care. I've dealt with a million of these people, so it's no big deal. Save project. Just don't want any issues happening.
To which she ignored and just opened the file. On the first page was the main information and a picture.
Pull that back.
On the first page was the main information and a picture of her newly assigned patient. Strangely, though, there appeared to be no name listed.
Can I get that out? Man, my mouth was noisy. Maybe I can get that.
Newly assigned patient. Strangely, though, there appeared to be no name listed, and she knew very well that coughing the name out of a patient was no easy task. She noted that task in her memory as she continued to examine the file furthermore. The age of her new patient was what really made her stop and ponder.
Okay, hold on.
The age of her new patient was what really made her stop and ponder, wondering how a teenager not even out of school had ended up in this hell. Wondering how a teenager not even out of school had ended up in this hell. Wondering how a teenager not even out of school had ended up in this hell.
I like when I did my
sassy
voice
line?
there. Okay, pull that back a little bit.
Sassy line? God, I can't fucking talk. She said to herself in her mind, moving further down to the cause of the sentencing, and once she... No.
Okay. I can hear the dog in the background, so that's probably a cuss or something. I don't think I actually cussed there. I think I said something like, "Oh my god," or something like that.
Stop.
Okay. Not too sure what that is.
Oh my god, Ruger, stop it.
Okay, let's... What is this?
And once she... No.
Okay, hang on.
She said to herself in her mind, moving further down to the cause of the sentencing, and once she... No. Oh my god!
Okay, stop.
She said to herself in her mind, moving further down to the cause of the sentencing, and once she saw it, her curiosity spiked even higher. And once she saw it, her curiosity spiked even higher. Her curiosity spiked even higher than the goosebumps rising on her flesh. Her curiosity spiked even higher than the goosebumps rising on her flesh. Murder of 4. Murder of 4.
First take's fine. I'm gonna kill a dog in the background. Okay, shush. Okay, we're at 10 minutes. Okay.
She got up and started for the assigned room of her new patient.
Well, hang on. I think I skipped some stuff.
Murder of 4.
Murder of 4.
Murder of 4. Sassy line?
Ah, I see. Okay, get rid of that. You ignorant bastard. Okay, just go something like that. Let's double check I'm not missing anything here. It seems like there's too much of a gap. Docs. There it is. Okay. Nope, it's correct.
She got up and started for the assigned room of her new patient, not expecting anything different from her many other patients. She saw this as just another head to the guillotine kind of thing.
Can I get those clicks out? God, my fucking mouth was a noise trap. I can get one out, I think. Whoa, no. Just need to do this.
Many other patients. She saw this as just another head.
Okay, that needs to have like a just a little bit more space to it. Hopefully.
Many other patients. She saw this as just another head to the guillotine kind of thing, looking twice at the file for the proper room number to be sure. Once she was sure, she returned to her job, finding the assigned room rather quickly. The director, Dr. Redcross, was there to greet her upon her arrival. His demeanor the usual, and features of a dark blue tuxedo, slick black mane, and thick black beard on point. Red Cross line? Excuse me. Sassy didn't give him anything, following her usual protocol. Sassy line? Red Cross nodded, turning to a meat trolley behind him, and meal trolley, you dipstick. Red Cross nodded, turning to a meal trolley behind him and grabbing a metal tray from atop it. Once he turned back to Sassy, Sassy saw her needed tools on the tray. Once he turned back to Sassy, Sassy saw...
Gotta love burps. Burps suck.
He turned back to Sassy. Sassy saw her needed tools on the tray. A mini cup with the poisonous medication, a sealed bottle of water.
Pull that back. Give that some room.
Tools on the tray. A mini cup with the poisonous medication, a sealed bottle of water. Why do burps always do this to me? Ugh.
Okay, pull it back.
Once he turned back to Sassy, Sassy saw her needed tools on the tray.
Much
A
better.
mini cup with the poisonous medication.
Much better.
Once he turned back to Sassy, Sassy saw her needed tools on the tray. A mini cup with the poisonous medication, a sealed bottle of water, a syringe, capsules for the blood she was going to draw, a tourniquet,
Pull it back.
capsules for the blood she was going to draw, a tourniquet, tape, a sealed alcohol swab, and band-aids. A sealed alcohol.
I see, you little bastard.
A tourniquet, tape, a sealed alcohol swab, and band-aids. Sassy took the tray from him and awaited him to open the door. After entering a 4-digit code and hearing the alarm to confirm that the door was unlocked, Red Cross opened the door just a hair, speaking some words to her before full entry.
There we go.
Red Cross line,
I need to get those squeals out that my chair decided to add. Yeah, you think the other chair was loud? This one's 10 times louder.
Red Cross line,
Perfect.
he ordered. Sassy line,
There you go.
she confirmed. She confirmed, to which Red Cross opened the door, to which Red Cross opened.
Okay, she confirmed.
She confirmed, to which Red Cross opened the door, to which Red Cross opened the door fully and granted Sassy full entrance into the room. Sassy obliged and walked forward into the dark room, flipping on the light switch to make her job easier.
Okay, pull that back.
Forward into the dark room, flipping on the light switch to make her job easier. Her new patient had her head down upon her approach, her curly locks unkempt and messy. Hearing the door creak to just slightly ajar, Sassy began her usual procedure with new arrivals. She started by setting the tray to the side on the provided sink and making her usual introduction. Sassy line? She greeted. The mayor didn't even flinch, remaining silent and refusing to give her any sort of answer. Sassy had been here before, and instead of persisting the issue more, she just accepted what she'd been given. Sometimes it was best not to force answers out of new patients, given they were still adapting to their new prison and needed time to come around. Therefore, Sassy just moved along to her.
Therefore. Pull that back.
Therefore, Sassy just moved along to her next task of her usual routine with newcomers.
Why are the task things...
Sassy line?
Why are the things at the bottom still, like,
Her
flashing?
patient listened, extending one of her free hooves, her head still down, and demeanor the same. Sassy line? Okay, gotta wait for the toilet to shut up.
Did I push the wrong one? No, I didn't. Okay.
Sassy continued with the procedure. Hang on, wait for the toilet shop. Sassy continued with the procedure, tying the tourniquet around their hoof, following with opening the
Okay, pull that back.
tying the tourniquet around their hoof, following with opening the alcohol swabs packet and dousing the area she planned to stick the syringe into. Next, she prepped the syringe, removing the cap and steadying her patient's hoof with her other. Next, she prepped.
Can I get that out? Maybe.
Next, she prepped the syringe, removing the cap and steadying her patient's hoof with her other free hoof. Sassy line?
There we go.
Sassy instructed, moving the needle into place. Sassy line?
Okay.
Sassy pushed the needle through the tough flesh, finding the vein and starting to draw the blood. Attaching a capsule to the end of the syringe tube, Her patient's blood started to fill the tube at the usual pace. Sassy continued the procedure in the eerie silence, replacing the tubes once.
Pull it back. Replacing the tubes. Could I not have used another word except tubes? I've used tubes like 3 times in a row.
Sassy continued the procedure in the eerie silence, replacing the tubes once another was full.
That just reminds me of Batman Forever with Jim Carrey's character, the Riddler.
Sassy continued the procedure in the eerie silence, replacing the tubes once another was full.
There we go.
Upon the third tube being removed, Sassy removed the syringe from the incision point.
Pull it back.
Tubes once another was full. Upon the third tube being removed, Sassy removed the syringe from the incision point along with the tourniquet, and dressed the area with a band-aid. She collected the tube.
Could you not have chosen another damn word, you dumbass? Jesus.
She collected the tubes, sealing them. She collected the tube.
My God, that's a fucking flunk on my part.
She collected the tubes, sealing them, then setting them aside on the tray. Now done with the blood drawing, she turned to grab the medication and bottle of water, but a sudden disturbance in the silent ambience of the room made her stop. Floraline? The voice spoke in a low rasp.
Oh boy, finding the floor lens is gonna be
Sassy
fun.
Lime? Sassy responded. Her curiosity piqued. Floraline? The now confirmed voice of her patient spoke again. Sassy decided to just play along, not letting her guard down in this potential ploy to make her another victim of this.
Right about there, I think. Okay, hang on. How much pause did I give that?
The now confirmed voice of her patient spoke again.
I see. I knew I put too much space.
Patient spoke again. Sassy decided to just play along, not letting her guard down in this potential ploy to make her another victim of this mare's murderous nature. Sassy Lime?
Oh, I know what that was.
She commented, speaking in her best friendly voice.
That's the heater starting up in the background. It is fucking noisy.
She commented, speaking in her best friendly voice. She was honestly terrified, knowing that this mare had ended 4 lives out of some reason she'd probably never know.
Yep, get that out.
She commented, speaking in her best friendly voice. She was honestly terrified, knowing that this mare had ended 4 lives out of some reason she'd probably never know or understand. But she couldn't act weak around dangerous patients. Otherwise, she'd be
Oh my God, the clicks. They drive me crazy.
weak around dangerous patients. Otherwise, she'd become a prime target.
God, fucking distracting motherfuckers.
Never know or understand. But she couldn't act weak around dangerous patients. Otherwise, she'd become
Pull that back a little bit.
never know or understand. But she couldn't act weak around dangerous patients. Otherwise, she'd become a prime target. Sassy Lime?
True fact about prison.
Silence followed, so Sassy proceeded with giving Jane Doe her medication, grabbing the cup and bottle of water from the tray.
Pull it back.
Jane Doe her medication, grabbing the cup and bottle of water from the tray. Sassy Lime? Her patient followed.
Whoa.
Her patient.
That's definitely evident. Control R.
Her patient followed,
Better.
Raising her head slowly and moving her messy curls from her face to give Raising her head slowly and moving her messy curls from her face to give proper eye-to-eye contact.
Okay.
Her patient followed, raising her head slowly and moving her
there we
messy
go.
curls from
There
her
we
face
go.
to give proper eye-to-eye contact. Upon one gaze at her patient, Sassy's heart jumped, and she gasped in shock.
Okay, hold on a second.
Upon one gaze at her patient,
I swear, there's like a click every fucking pause. Get out of here.
Sassy's heart jumped, and she gasped in shock.
I can't get those out.
Jumped.
Oh, hang on, maybe. Okay, I can get one out.
Jumped, and she gasped in shock. It was like a mirror image of that day she saw Crimson.
Okay.
It was like a mirror image of that day she saw Crimson. Pause.
Okay.
Alright, now that here, shut the fuck up. Let's get back to her.
Pull that back. Hold that back. Shut up. It's not playing, you dipstick.
That day, she saw Crimson. Her eyes were the same yellow hue and were puffy and swollen. She held the same blank and lost expression and composure, and appeared non-existent, as if she were trapped and scared of something beyond her current prison cell. Just like Crimson had been that day. Current prison cell. Just current prison cell.
Swear, this is just gonna be the editing. Removing these stupid things.
Prison cell. Just like Crimson had been that day. This realization had caused her to pause, her mind flashing between Crimson and her current patient's similarity in demeanor and composure.
Okay. Save.
Demeanor and composure. It was as if
Pull that back.
It was as if she'd traveled back in time and It was as if
Shut the fuck up.
It was as if she'd traveled back in time, and only until she regained her hoofing again did she feel as if this girl were not a murderer. Floraline? Jane Doe asked with concern. Sassyline?
Okay.
She did so, handing her patient the mini cup and
Okay, shut that up.
She did so, handing her patient the mini cup. She did so, handing her patient the mini cup and instructing her to take the medication. After the deed was done, Sassy took back the cup and bottled water and set them off to the tray. Sassy took the cup and bottled water and set them on the tray. Sassy took the cup and bottled water and set them on the tray. That normally would be the end. That normally would be the time for her to leave the room, but her realization. That normally would be the time for her to leave the room, but her realization compelled her to stay a little. But her realization compelled her us. But her realization compelled her to stay a little long. But her realization compelled her to stay a little longer and. But her realization compelled her to stay a little longer and talk more. Sassyline? Lotus or Floraline?
Okay, pull that back. Okay, what is this? Go away.
Jane Doe responded, to which Sassy shivered at.
Twist that.
Jane Doe responded, to which Sassy shivered at. Sassy Lime? A short pause followed. No. A short pause followed. Flora Lime?
Back.
A short pause followed. Flora Lime? This mare's reply wasn't like the many other patients who had actually killed ponies to end up here, and Sassy could tell that she wasn't lying. She didn't immediately assume it, though, digging a little deeper into her patient's conviction. Sassy Lime? Sassy pushed, already knowing what the answer had to be to match her assumptions. Flora Lime? Yep. Bingo.
What's his name-o?
Bingo. That was the answer Sassy was looking for, so she dug harder. Sassy Lime?
Okay.
Her patient winced at the reply, feeling as if a ray of hope had just appeared in her never-ending darkness, knowing...
Hold that back.
Feeling as if a ray of hope had just appeared in her never-ending darkness, knowing she had to be careful how to word her next response. Flora Lime? Sassy wasn't sure where this was going, but she literally had nothing else to do except drool on her keyboard for another 4 hours, so she nodded. Flora Lime?
Okay.
Her patient questioned.
It's a little bit of a plosive.
Her patient questioned.
Okay, that did nothing.
Now, that was definitely not what Sassy was expecting. And
there we go.
questioned. Now, that was definitely not what Sassy was expecting, and now understood why her patient had worded her response the way she had. This was a question with mixed answers. No. This was a question with mixed answers, and her true opinion was that she didn't believe in ghosts. She decided to be honest with her and shook her head as an answer. Flora Lime?
Okay.
Jane Doe finished, pointing her hoof towards the exit. Sassy nodded, moving to the last step of the introduction process, the part that she kept.
Okay. There is a plosive there, and you get rid of that.
The part that she kept behind the backs of the facility.
Actually, there isn't.
She reached into her pocket and pulled out a pill, handing it to her patient. Sassy Lime? Flora Lime? Sassy Lime?
Okay.
Jane's face went pale, immediately sticking the pill Sassy had provided her into her mouth and swallowing it with a single gulp. Sassy smiled, grabbing the tray and turning to the exit. Sassy Lime? Sassy assured, but before leaving, she decided to try her record. Sassy assured, but before leaving, she decided to try her first request one more time. Their relationship as nurse. Sassy assured, but before leaving, she decided to try her first request one more time. Their relationship as nurse and patient.
Pull that back.
Their relationship as nurse and patient had changed since her first try, so maybe Jane Doe would be more open. Sassy Lime?
Okay.
Floraline? Flora answered simply. Flora answered simply, shifting to a position where she was laying on.
Why always is...
Flora answered simply, shifting to a position where she was laying on her bed. Sassy Line?
Pull that back.
Shifting to a position where she was laying on her bed. Sassy Line?
Okay.
Sassy finished, walking out and shutting the light off. Once the door was sealed and locked, Sassy was once again met with Red Cross. Red Cross Line? Where am I? Sassy just rolled her eyes. No. Sassy just rolled her eyes, not even acknowledging his complaining. Sassy Line? Not even acknowledging his complaining. Sassy Line? Red Cross Line? Sassy Line? Red Cross Line?
The hell was that?
Sassy Line? Red Cross Line?
Okay, it was just a fumble.
Sassy Line? Red Cross Line? Sassy nodded as an answer. Red Cross Line? Sassy Line? He finally left Sassy to her He finally left Sassy to her work. And with no further interest, Sassy started back to her desk to document Flora's. Sassy started back to her desk to document Flora's. Sassy started back, and with no further interest, Sassy started back to her.
And with no further interest, so I took it all the way back.
And with no further interest, Sassy started back to her desk to document Flora's name and read her file. It was something she did with every patient she read her file. It was something she did with every patient she would be caring for the rest of her days working here, up until the day she had enough evidence to bury this place.
Okay. That's midnight. Yeah. Hey, midnight. See you back on the way. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah. I finally managed to get back into the captain's seat, so that's good. Now that I've got all my requests out of the way, that is. I just get a good sleep last night, so I was ready this morning. Oh. I've already been at this for an hour and a half. Oh shit, I just spilled, didn't I? I need a thing. A rag. Where'd that go? There it is. That's my drawing stylus, by the way. Has two ends on it. I think my phone did it. No. Oh. Okay, I need to get a rag real quick to clean my mess up. Oh, fucking hell. Do I have a rag in here at all? Doesn't look like it. Need a paper towel. Wasn't a big spill, just a small spill. Alrighty. Roll this shit away. Oh, okay. Glad you were able to do some art, though. It's nice to switch up a bit. Some art is an understatement. I literally had... I can actually tell you. How many requests did I actually have? 11. Jesus Christ. I had 11 requests. See, I even documented them. So that I wouldn't forget one. Which is smart. Okay. But yeah, I have learned quite a bit. That was good, but it keeps you busy, definitely. Honestly, artwork kind of relaxes me, depending on what I'm drawing. Like the most recent one, I don't know if you've seen it, it's on my Twitter, but I like to basically try and draw characters from the games that I play. And one of the most recent releases, I really enjoyed her story and I really enjoyed her role. Her name is Cantarella. And what's funny is the fucking company sold her as like this like sexual character, which I'm not gonna lie, she is. But in her story, she's the entire opposite. She's like a very dignified lady with like an iron fist. She's kind of scary. Like she's very independent. Like she's just straight up like, I don't give a fuck. I control you. You don't control me, kind of thing. But her role in the story that you learn, which is the twist, holy shit. It's like a completely different kind of character. So yeah, I drew her, and honestly, I think I did a really good job. Here, I'll actually send it to you. I think I did a really good job. Like, I'm really getting good at matching things and like picking up on how to draw characters. Like, actually matching them really, really well. I've already drawn one that was actually from the same story, but here's the thing. She's not a main character like on Banner yet. Like she's not a big topic. So I'm kind of holding out on that one to not release her yet. I'm waiting until she's like a really big topic so that the hashtag is big. So it gets more views, more clicks. It's like more of a higher topic and the algorithm actually agrees with it. What am I doing? Oh, I know what I'm doing. Where the hell are you? There you are. Okay. I'll send all the versions because why the fuck not? There you go. Now you have something to see. I am getting better at proportions. Not proportions. Well, yeah, proportions. But I'm also getting better at the anatomy. Like I had a talk with Pretzel, and she pointed out something like it's one of the parts of drawing that I absolutely just hate, especially with women. The hips. And what was happening was I was drawing them apparently too deep into the body, so she taught me like a little trick on how to get past that. So hopefully I can get better at that, and maybe even faster. But it's just that part of connecting the hips to the legs that's the pain in the rear for me.
Up until the day she had enough evidence to bury this place. It was her way of getting to know her patients more better, and Flora had...
Okay, bring that back.
Bury this place. It was her way of getting to know her patients more better, and Flora had definitely piqued her interest. She didn't know why, but nothing. She didn't know why, but nothing screamed I'm a murderer for about Flora. She seemed less a killer and more a foal that had lost its parents, and given she had patients who were actual murderers, none of the telltale signs of a murderous pony stuck out in her first encounter with Flora. None of the telltale signs of the None of the telltale signs of a murderous pony. None of the telltale signs of murderers. None of the telltale signs of a murderous pony stuck out in her first encounter with Flora.
There we go.
She complied for the most part and didn't treat Sashi.
Sashi?
She complied for the most.
Sashi? Who the hell is Sashi?
Encounter with Flora. She complied for the most part and didn't treat Sassy like their own personal victim or bitch.
Pull that back.
First encounter with Flora. She complied for the most part and didn't treat Sassy like their own personal victim or bitch. Those were not the usual actions of a murderer of 4 ponies. It was the exact opposite. 4 lives was a high number, and if Flora had killed 4 ponies, she would be more cruel. She would be more cruel and playful in demeanor.
Okay. Wow, it looks like you should definitely be proud you've improved in every new piece. Yeah, I think I've really have improved a lot. I mean, I'll actually send you a picture of what I was actually trying to match. Her hair. Oh my god, I want to lose my fucking mind. It's not because of the basis of the hair, it's the colors. How her hair is, like, colored. I wanted to lose my mind. Because getting the hair to look right was the hard part. To get that, like, how do I put this? Like, color transitioning into another color effect is hard. And I don't know how to properly do that in, like, Ibis. I don't know how you do that. I mean, if you can show me, I would really appreciate it if you know how to do it. Like, getting hair color to transition into another color smoothly. But it is fucking hard. And that was one part of her entire hairstyle. I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to lose my shit here in about 5 minutes.
She would be more cruel.
Okay, hang on. I got to figure out where I'm at.
4 lives was a high number, and if Flora had killed 4 ponies, she would be more cruel. She would be more cruel and
Hold it. Okay, bring that back.
Killed 4 ponies, she would be more cruel and playful in demeanor, not silent and cooperative like a well-raised and not silent and cooperative. She would be more cruel and playful in demeanor, not silent and cooperative like a well-raised and disciplined child. And playful in demeanor, not silent and cooperative like a well-raised and disciplined child. Truthfully, Sassy actually thought Flora had been sent here falsely, and that
Oh, I didn't need to do that, but it's okay.
here falsely, and that whoever had actually committed the murders was still out there. But then the last question Flora had asked crossed her mind again.
That's a repeat.
Repeat of a Flora line? Oh, my fucking shoulder. Oh, I hate burps. Oh. How did ghosts existing have anything to do with a case of forced murder? How did ghosts have anything to do with a case of 4 murders?
Pull that back.
How did ghosts have anything to do with a case of 4 murders? That truly was what burned her curiosity the most, and as she began to read, the mystery grew even more stranger. How did ghosts have anything to do with a case of 4 murders? That truly was what burned her curiosity the most, and as she began to read, the mystery grew even more stranger. And as she began to read, the mystery grew even more stranger.
Pull it back.
And as she began to read, the mystery grew even more stranger. A high school mare's friends disappear on Nightmare Night. Teenage mare finds her mother dead.
Really, you son of a beanbag? All that back. I don't remember these were lines for that Midnight did or not.
Appear on Nightmare Night. Teenage Mare finds her mother dead next morning. Claims that she is being watched and led to kill some pony. Says that the demonic spirit of Bittersweet Applejack. She froze instantly.
Back.
She froze instantly. She froze instantly. The connection to Crimson and... She froze instantly. The connection to Crimson and the realization upon Flora's appearance being near exact. Demonic spirits. Demonic spirits? Demonic spirits? Even Sassy wasn't sure if she could believe that, but the connection to that day she saw Crimson made her believe that it could actually be true. She noted that as she read onward, and when she got to the court record, that's when things got interesting. Princess Flare had been requested and accused of by Flora as the actual murder of one of the victims. Not only that, but the other 3 victims in the case were never found, and no evidence was provided to prove Flora as the killer. Yet in the end, she was charged with their murders without any evidence or link to their deaths. And no evidence was provided to prove Flora as the killer. Yet in the end, she was charged with their murders without any evidence or link to their deaths. Something about the case was just off completely, and Sassy could see the clear fraudulence in between the lines. Something about the case was just off completely, and Sassy could see the clear fraudulence in between the lines. Either this was one of the most fixed murder cases in equestrian law history, or the law had changed at some point regarding murder cases. The latter didn't make sense, seeing Flora didn't
Pull that back.
point regarding murder cases. The latter didn't make sense, seeing Flora didn't seem to have a murderous bone in her body based off of her first impression in their meat. Not to mention that serious factors in a murder case were missing in the record. A motive? Not to mention...
Yeah, I'm glad I retook that.
Not to...
Okay, that's definitely a mess up right there.
Not to mention that serious factors in a murder case were missing in the record. A motive, evidence, proof of Flora being mentally ill. Princess Flare was involved. Princess Flare being involved was the thing that Sassy noted the Princess Flare being involved was the thing that Sassy noted the most. Seeing why the hell would Flora request and accuse Princess Flare if she didn't have no reason? Based off of what Sassy knew of her matriarch's history, murder wasn't far from being something she was capable of. Based off of what Sassy knew of her matriarch's history, murder wasn't far from being something she was capable of. Had Flora been framed by her own ruler? If so, why? Then it hit her. The abolishment decree was linked to the Apple family massacre, and Flora had mentioned Applejack, the main Apple family member responsible for the murders in her case. Now the lingering factor of ghosts existing was becoming all the more possible, and Sassy couldn't deny it. Had Flora's friends been killed by a dead serial killer, and the other victim had been killed by Princess Flare to frame Flora to keep her mouth shut about the Apple family massacre? It seemed literally unbelievable, and that was how Flora had described it. Less to say, Sassy had much to ask Flora come their next encounter in a few hours. Usually in a case like this, Sassy would be craving a cigarette again, but she was. Usually in a case like this, Sassy would be craving a cigarette again, but she wasn't craving anything to do with her nasty habit. The only thing she was craving in that moment was getting to the bottom of the most intriguing case with a patient she'd ever seen.
Okay. There's the pause.
Pause. Ooh.
Okay. Let's shut that up. Save the file. Let's go something along the lines of this.
Sassy's stomach grumbled for its daily intake of Sassy's stomach grumbled for its daily intake of produce as she grabbed her dinner from the employee lounge's provided fridge. It was nothing special, just a sealed plastic container that contained the leftover 4-cheese lasagna she had made herself last night. Its delectable smell of its 4 layers of tomato sauce, cottage cheese, noodles, and an array of cheeses permeated her nostrils. No. Its delectable smell of its...
Hold that back.
had made herself last night. Its delectable smell of its 4 layers of tomato sauce, cottage cheese, noodles, and an array of cheeses permeating her nostrils. She put it into the provided microwave that was long past its need for a cleaning date. No. She put it into the provided microwave that was long past its need for a cleaning date and set the timer for a long 5 minutes. Once the sound of 4 extended beeps met her ears, she carefully removed her steaming meal from the confined space of the filthy machine and took a seat at the round, cheap lounge table. Using a provided fork, she stabbed into the food and pleased her
Just wow. Yeah, she does.
Cheap lounge table. Using a provided fork.
This is not the happy-go-lucky My Little Pony universe. This is a grim and dark one. Not to make the pun.
Table. Using a provided fork, she stabbed into the food and pleased her unrest gut that had been nagging her for the past hour. While the meal was hot, the satisfaction of the array of flavors purged the fact that her tongue had been mildly burned. It wasn't her first rodeo, so she didn't pay it any mind and just continued to gorge herself like a gluttonous queen. Halfway through her meal, her peace and isolation had been purged by the 2 ponies she couldn't stand the most in her occupation. Red Cross and his bitch mare. No. Red Cross and his bitch mare. Red Cross and his bitch mare. Her name, at least here, was Nurse Rose, and she was the definition of a mix of a prostitute and nuisance. She constantly was kissing Red Cross's flank and more, and constantly flaunted her shit that no pony besides Red Cross wanted to see. She was just everything that Sassy couldn't stand, and was enough for her to not even bother sticking around for. She took her partially cooked Tupperware container and left those 2 to do whatever the hell they were up to, and started back to her desk. The last place she wanted to be during her last break of the day. However, right as she was in sight of her workstation, she stopped and pondered on a thought. She hadn't forgotten about her most interesting patient she'd ever been assigned, and while she wasn't supposed to start delivering dinner to her patients for another 30 minutes, she was thinking about taking this opportunity to dig deeper into the mystery that was currently plaguing her mind. Red Cross clearly was busy with his own business, so she saw this as the opening she needed. Sassy She'd made up her mind,
How is that perfectly in unison?
She'd made up her mind, starting for Flora's room. Nope. She'd made up her mind, starting for Flora's room. She'd made up her mind, starting for Flora's room. Once she'd reached the room, she entered the code and moved quickly into the room once the metal bars holding the door shut had released their embrace with the adjacent 2 holes that held them tightly in place. It was dark upon entrance, causing Sassy to flip the light switch and purge the room with a blinding flash. Once her eyes adjusted, she found Flora in the same position as when she had left before. She was awake, her eyes reflecting the light of the room like a pair of... She was awake, her eyes reflecting the light of the room like a circular pair of mirrors.
Hold that back.
Flora responded...
Okay, so... She was awake. She was awake. I remember this fucking line giving me bullshit.
She was awake, her eyes reflecting the light of the room like a pair of circular mirrors, and that relieved Sassy somewhat. Not wanting to startle Flora awake. And that relieved Sassy somewhat, not wanting to startle Flora awake. Fucking hell, what's her name? Sassy Lime? Sassy Lime? Flora responded upon recognizing the voice, sitting up and sifting her tangled golden locks from her face. Flora Lime?
Pull that back.
Flora replied, her voice still a rasp, but there was a sign of happiness in her tone. Sassy smiled. Sassy smiled, feeling proud.
Okay. Hold that back.
Sassy smiled, feeling proud.
Oh, that's actually gonna be kind of tricky because I hear that sound.
Sassy smiled, feeling proud that she had managed to Sassy smiled, feeling proud that she had managed a connection with Flora, a positive one that made a bridge of trust between them. Sassy Lime? Sassy asked, holding out her leftover food as an offering. Flora backed away at the assumption of the offering being a serving of whatever they served here. Flora backed away at the assumption of the offering being a serving of whatever they served here.
First one's fine. That one's more dirty.
Sassy Lime? Flora Lime? Sassy Lime? Flora continued to hesitate. Flora Lime? Sassy Lime? Slowly, Flora reached out and took the container from Sassy, settling the plastic kitchenware into her lap and taking a bite. Upon one taste of the food, Flora expressed a look of satisfaction, this meal having been her first taste of real food in a long while. She shoveled the remainder of the delicious serving down like a stray animal who hadn't ate in weeks, and upon finishing, handed the container and plastic fork back to Sassy. Flora expressed, her demeanor having shifted completely. Sassy Lime? Flora Lime? Sassy moved some of her mane from her face, then took a deep breath. Sassy Lime? Flora's attention.
Pull that back.
Flora's attention was caught.
Oh god, I hate clicks.
Flora's attention was caught, and she. Flora's attention was caught, and she was in complete shock at the words Sassy had just spoken. Sassy Lime? Oh wait, that's not a Sassy Lime, that's a Flora Lime, my bad. Sassy Lime?
Okay, hold on.
Oh wait, that's not a Sassy Lime, that's a Flora Lime, my bad. Sassy Lime? Flora was shocked. Her attention was full, and her and her curiosity had been sparked enough to keep listening. Sassy line?
Okay, pull that back.
Her attention was full, and her curiosity had been sparked enough to keep listening. Sassy line? Flora line? Sassy line? Flora couldn't believe what she was hearing. Flashes of her night in that labyrinth of nightmares and traumatizing imagery playing before her eyes. It was as if she'd found an angel in her suffocating void of misery and hopelessness. Flora line? That's a Flora action. Sassy nodded, noticing that Flora had...
Okay, so I don't need the action. I can just take that out.
Sassy nodded, noticing that Flora had unknowingly begun to cry, so she took the liberty of wiping away her tears like a caring mother or friend. Sassy line? Flora line? Sassy line? Flora took a deep breath to Flora took a deep breath to calm herself down, letting it out slowly and calmly. Once she knew she was ready, she finally spoke. Once she knew she was ready, she finally spoke. Flora line? Sassy line? Flora line. Bam.
Alright, there's one down. There is one down. Alright, so let's save real quick. Actually, no, I'll save just in case. Just in case. Okay, export as MP3. Hello, thank you. Clean. Alright. There's one. One piece of the puzzle. I might just do the next one. But then I would only have one to do if I were to do one chapter per day. 6, 7, 8, 9. Today, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So we'd be done on Tuesday. But if I were to do the one today, then I'd only have one to do on Monday. If I were to be for it on Monday. Do I want to do a 3? I really don't want to. I really don't want to. Well, what I could do is, let's see. How long have I been streaming for? Almost about 2 hours. Because I know this chapter won't take that long at all. It won't. I don't know. It's still early. I guess what I could do... Let's just do what I want to do. I'm not really... I think I'm going to do it like this. I think I'm going to stop today, do the 2 tomorrow. So do the 2 tomorrow. Maybe add the noise gate if it fits. Oh wait, no. I have to add that when I add in everything else. Gotta remember, there's more than one voice file in this. So think that's just a good amount of work for one day. Just kind of getting back into the rhythm, the groove, just kind of feeling it. So I'm doing the character lines today. That comes later. I need to do my line. I need to do my shit first. Then when I do the characters, I gotta think of how this whole fucking process goes. I need to basically EQ them. I need to sort them. Again, there's so much work. So I will probably get to that after I finish the narration. That way everything is set and I can just add everything in when it's ready. So that's just going to be probably after I'm done with all these mistakes and stuff. Add all that shit in. Okay, that's done. Go upload this to the drive. Maybe. Nope, I gotta do the character lines last, because otherwise it gets confusing. I've got to find the floor ones. I don't even know where the hell they are. I think they're in my downloads, but I could be wrong. If I can't find them, well, sorry Lotus, but you might have to you might have to do some re-records. But it's not her fault. It would be 100% my fault. But we're not there yet, so let's not get too... Okay, hopefully it doesn't show anything. Oh, shit. Angel in the dark. Oh, I have no way. It's not coming up. 2 Angel in the dark. Upload that. It's the character lines part that I absolutely dread, because it's a giant puzzle that I have to basically put together. And holy fucking hell, it's a lot of work. But I think near 2 hours is a good enough amount of time. Don't want to overwork myself. Plus, there's a drawing that I want to do. Hopefully, maybe if I can do it. There's a character I want to attempt to draw, and it'll probably take some hours. But if I can get it done tonight, then I'm all free for Monday and Tuesday. So I'll probably get back to it tomorrow, because I need to get this done. So my brain will be like, hey, you need to get this done, bro. Yeah, shut up, I know. Don't tell me something I don't already know. But anyways, I think I'm going to call it there, because I just don't want to overwork myself. But it felt good to be back in the captaincy doing some stuff. And Thomas, I hope you have a great... I think it's night. Yeah, night. Oh, shit. Yeah, it would be 6 p.m. where you are? I believe 12. No, 7. See you soon, Thomas. And thank you all for joining me. And I hope to see you all tomorrow when I get my butt up and have some coffee and get back to this. So, now you know, I'm not dead. Yeah. I just had to get better. That's all there was to it. And I made a post on it, said I need to put my priorities where they are, and yep, we are back. And we are getting to it. So, Hopefully this doesn't take too long, and hopefully we can get her out probably, I would say, maybe a week. Something like that. That's usually about how long it usually takes, but it depends on if I have everything. If I have everything, I'm good. But if I don't have everything, then yeah, it takes a minute. But hopefully I can just find all the files, get them all imported, all cleaned up, the whole 9 yards. So hopefully everything goes good. But hopefully I can get this out as soon as possible. So thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow. And happy horrors until the next time.